Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 275. Netflix Cowboy Bebop review, maybe more of a wish list.
Maybe a pre-review.
A prequel review.
The review to the prequel to the review.
Yes, prequel.
A trailer to the review. Is a teaser for it? Maybe.
Yes, we're doing a whole teaser episode. We don't get the idea of a teaser very well, so we're doing a whole episode.
What? That doesn't count?
Yeah, teaser to the Netflix series.
I don't think we're teasing it.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge,
break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the muck of Java and build. Welcome back, as always. I have no idea who I am.
And I know exactly who I am.
Yes, this must be the World Builders Anvil podcast, if you didn't get that from the intro music. Yes, today we are going to talk about... My wife actually found a story talking about how Netflix is going to do Cowboy Bebop. Now, we've talked several times about talking about Cowboy Bebop, so now we're going to talk about Cowboy Bebop here, a little bit about what we know, which is not much, and little ones and fears at the end, I think, too. So.
And odds are, by the time you guys get this, more information is going to come out. Like, we're recording this. The announcement for the show was just earlier this week. Mm-hmm. So for Jeff and I, this is quite timely. But for you guys, you might know more than what we're going to speculate about by the time you listen to this.
Yeah, for us, usually timely is about 2 or 3 weeks after something opens. So we're way ahead of schedule here.
No. Time. Well, I mean, we, and I think you guys probably already know this. We tend to record about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, roughly.
Well, we like to be a month ahead, but it's just not been possible recently.
Yeah, but we're usually at least a week or two ahead, right?
Yeah.
Like this is 2 weeks ahead, isn't it? Or 1 week?
Yeah, we have one releasing right now, and then this will be for next week.
So we're only 1 week ahead right now.
Only 1 week ahead, yeah.
Okay, so
if we want to record on time, it would have been 2 weeks, but
yeah. So we're actually behind, which puts us closer to the now, but we like to be further ahead, which actually puts us further behind.
I keep asking him to use his time machine. He just refuses.
Well, I mean, not for frivolous things like this, but like if I want to go back in time and go to the sweet restaurant in my hometown that closed down years ago just to get a slice of pizza, maybe fill a cheesesteak and a shake, then yeah, I'll use it for that.
You know, if you stop giving me the wrong numbers for the Powerball, this would all be gone. This would not be a problem.
What you don't realize is that I'm not actually from your time. I'm from a future time where I did give you the Powerball numbers, and you became this horrible dictator that ruled over the world. And I'm trying to prevent that from happening. This show is just a means for me to keep you occupied and distracted from what would otherwise be, tyrannical world domination.
Obvious megalomaniacal.
Exactly.
Fair enough. All right.
Before we get into it, let's shout out some of the new folks on the Facebook group. So if you guys haven't joined yet, and I'm sure many of you have not, but it's great to see how many have. We have
200.
Did we really?
Mm-hmm.
So we got more than 200 people on the close Facebook group that are all super cool. Listeners to the show, content creators themselves, writers, artists, game creators. If you're looking for a friendly little community of people that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of, come visit. Or if you just want to, shoot Jeff and me messages on Facebook, you can do that too.
And we actually have an official librarian. So if you're looking for inspiration alone, it's worth joining.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So big shout outs to recent joiners. That includes Robert, John, Karen, Keith, Liam, Magdalena, and then Fahim, Bethany, and Patrick. And Fahim, if I'm saying your name incorrectly, I do apologize.
Well, and I'm laughing too because it's all in like this little chat window, but it's all mixed together. So he's like having to find names mixed throughout. So good
I
for
thought,
him.
I thought I did that pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, you did that pretty good. I was hoping for failure, but
don't worry. I won't let you down on other episodes.
All right. So this is something I'm actually really excited for. You know, at least through the point I watch it. Sometimes these things I get really excited for, I get really disappointed when I watch.
This is actually something I am not really excited for.
I know you're not.
I have a completely different approach on this one.
You're going to hear a lot more fears from Michael than from me on this.
Not fears. I'm not going at it fearfully. I'm hopeful because Netflix does do so good. Well, I don't want to derail because I'm going to have. I kind of like, and I'm hoping
we'll hold on to that. Yep.
Well, I think we're going to have opposing opinions for a lot of this stuff, and I think that's good because it creates good, tension for the show.
Yeah, that's also why we don't record in the same studio, because we used to get into fist fights. So we were actually asked by
my hands hurt. I mean, I've got scars across my knuckle from repetitively bashing Jeff's face in.
Well, he doesn't realize my skull is much tougher than his hand.
He used to be a pretty man.
That's why we do audio only.
All right, let's get to it. What's the first thing?
All right, so let's hop in. Take a quick look at and not so much the world, but the universe of Cowboy Bebop. And the first thing I want to get into is the feel of the show. I mean,
well, you mentioned the first part, right? Like so that it's an upcoming live action.
That is a fair point. This is an upcoming live action series by Netflix, taking place. If you've not seen it, it is strangely enough called Cowboy Bebop. It's a Japanimation. I'm actually not a huge Japanimation fan.
I am.
I know a lot of people who are. This is one of my favorite things ever made. So I think this rises above Japanimation, even though obviously it is in that genre. But it is superbly well made. Traditionally, it was animated. Obviously, that's why they're pointing out that it's live action when they're making the new one. And it was one season, 26 episodes, and one movie, which actually took place during the actual sequence of the series. I don't want to give away series spoilers, if at all possible. There might be a few.
Oh yeah, ones. Yeah. Let's try not to.
Definitely be a minor one here or there, but we won't give away the big stuff at the end.
If I remember correctly, the movie, I believe, takes place between the episodes 23 and 24, or 22 and 23. It's
late in the series.
It's between one of the last two or three episodes.
Most definitely, and I forget because last time I watched it, I watched it with the movie where it should have been. And then the neat thing is the way they did it is the episodes aren't back to back usually. So, I mean, you could, in theory, do all kinds of stuff between episodes even. But for me, the feel is what makes the show work so well. And actually, before we go into the feel, we'll go into the genre, because that will sort of hint a bit at the feel. How would you describe the genre?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's definitely science fiction, Earth-based, in that the species of man started on Earth, and we have now branched off into we've terraformed a bunch of other planets in our solar system, and it seems like it's just really in our solar system. It doesn't seem like we've gotten further.
No, we most definitely have. Yeah.
We have gone further. Okay, I don't remember. I'll have to admit, it has been a long time since I've watched Cowboy Bebop. I had intended to watch a little in preparation for this show, but I didn't have enough time. But I've seen it a number of times, so I'm just going by memory. So you have mankind is now out there in space. The Earth is pretty much a wasteland. There are some people that still live on Earth. Don't they visit Earth at one time or another?
There is Earth, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. But yes,
okay,
Earth does exist in a damaged form.
Well, I know it existed in a damaged form. I just couldn't remember if there were still people on the planet side. That's what I was trying to remember, because I feel like there was a time where I feel like some characters are from
Yes, we'll talk about
Okay. So obviously science fiction. Beyond that, I would start getting into sub-genre if I wanted to talk about it. If I had to say, is it like anything else? I would say that the characters and the things that occur in this show could easily slide into the Firefly universe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like Firefly and have never watched Cowboy Bebop, I would highly recommend giving it a try.
The pacing of the show is different, but the universes do to me as well. They seem like they're not necessarily connected, but they're
so similar in feel.
The feel of the universe is similar. Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, what else? What subgenre would you qualify? What else would you qualify?
So mine is, I would call it a space opera, just for the dramatic.
I don't know if I go so far as to say space opera. But I'm not
genres are what we're going to really argue.
I'm not going to take it away from you though. So just give me something to back.
Don't ask me to interrupt me, sir. You're lucky this camera separates us by miles. Now it's I would say a noir western with a dash cyberpunk in a spacefaring sci-fi.
I think that's very fair.
Yep. No, there's definitely and there's definitely this feel of a western in there. And I'll get a little bit more into specifically why, but that's a really important theme. It's the strength of the individual overcoming, and I'd say too, genre wise, that's pretty much it. But the interesting thing is, music is at the heart of it. Obviously, bebop is in the name. So jazz, but it's not only jazz. Not every episode is based on jazz, but every episode takes a particular style of music. And I don't know the name of. I remember it's a lady who put the music together for it, but the show's rhythms would be based off of the rhythms of the music being used, which really, like from an artistic level, to me, I thought was really good because the show would kind of flow with what was musically happening. And was it perfect? Probably not. But am I good enough to point out any problems there? No, I'm not. But I mean, and it's sort of the music, what do they call them? Sessions?
Sessions, yeah. Every episode is called a session. It's not called an episode.
Yeah, and so essentially, it is the music driving the flow of the episodes in this. I would agree, it's a Firefly-like universe that is just really it's very compelling, and I think it's an excellent watch. The original, if you haven't seen it, I would watch it first just because it's so good. But realize, whenever you get to this crossover stuff, who knows how well it will ultimately work out.
I see nothing wrong with watching the entirety of the series and then watching the movie afterward, because the movie was released. Afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I see no problems with watching it in that.
And if you watch the whole series, trust me, you will need to see the movie afterwards. You will need to. It's just the way it rolls.
If for no other reason than the fact that you're going to want more.
Yes. So now there's some world building things I want to get into that are of note that caught my eye watching this. As a world builder, I deconstruct stuff not only story wise, but also I like to deconstruct world building elements that I find unique. The first one, the idea was the main characters of the show are what they call cowboys, which are very important to the premise of the show. And cowboys are essentially bounty hunters. Not essentially, they are bounty hunters. If you're a bounty hunter, they call you a cowboy, and your job is to collect bounties. And so the idea, and very much keep it in, and keep your ship flying mentality of Firefly. The idea is they're always in the search for the next bounty to keep food on the plates and to keep their ship flying so they can do the next job, and looking for the bigger score, the big fry instead of the little fries. We don't like the little fries. Even though sometimes the little fries would probably cost less in damages, because that would be the other interesting thing too. Is if you cause a lot of damages in acquiring, you're also paying damages. So sometimes you get a big bounty, but then lose all of your money. So it's a show which, because of that, leads to the scarcity of food at times for the crew of the ship. I believe was called the Bebop, if I remember correctly.
No, that's correct.
The main ship. There was a main ship with a couple spacecraft attached to it.
Yes, and, the Spikes is called the Swordfish.
Okay. I'm glad you remember this.
Jets is called. Oh goodness, I'd have to look up Jets and Bound and Phase.
Yep. But essentially, Phase and Spikes were classic fighter style spacecraft, and I wouldn't say Jets was. It could fight, but it was really meant more as a utility ship.
Yeah, it was kind of almost like a. It was almost like a bucket loader. It had like a crane style thing on the back, and the front of it was almost like a not quite a bulldozer, but similar.
Another interesting thing is, and this is one of the things that, especially if you're running or developing a game that's science fiction, is one of the fears is space travel. How do you control faster than light travel? They used wormhole technology in the show where you had to pass through a wormhole to go from distances of space systems that were really far away. So you couldn't just turn on warp and go off in any direction. You essentially had to go to a pre-established gate, get in the gate, and come out another gate to be able to travel faster than light. And that's how they got further away. And now it's because if you're getting further away, it created from the Western genre this idea of East versus West. And that's not the same as East versus West, in geopolitical terms. But the idea is, in the United States during the Western period, the East Coast was much more densely populated and had much more developed cities, and a lot of people were fleeing that. And so there's this idea that out east was where all of the power and all of the goings on were happening, but out west was where you had a chance that you could make it on your own, or at least that's what's left to us via popular media. So it's this idea where you can go out west and it's much more, frontier-like. And some of the planets they're on are very frontier-like, and some are a little bit less frontier-like. The closer you get to the Sol system, as it's typically called, and Mars is the main planet there, the more developed things become, the more rigid, the less freedom you have as an individual, because you have the state and the police and all this other stuff going on, where the further you get away from that, you're free from everything. The problem being there's a lot less stuff out there. So, it's one of those things where, what do you prefer? Do you want the way to pave your own path, or do you want to follow the path that exists where it's already been developed? And obviously with the crew of the Bebop, it is about paving your own way.
And that might also, part of that might also be out of necessity based on their funding, but I don't think even if they had money, they would be, the type of person that would just sit around and take advantage of their money.
No, I mean,
they're adventure style characters. Jet,
in the words of the Tick, they were called by destiny.
Yeah, Jet might. I could see Jet settling down, but not Spike or.
I would say not even Jet, just due to his past. Let's talk about the characters really quickly before we go to Earth.
All right.
We'll skip Earth for a second. We're going to go into the characters. There is the main protagonist of the show. His name is Ein. He's a Pembroke Welsh Corgi. He pretty much was the most important character in the show. I think you would agree. And I was really shocked they've not announced who's playing the dog Ein yet.
I mean, look, he's a hard character to cast, if just because of his range of emotion throughout the entirety of the series. You got to have a master of the craft. I mean, I don't even know who could pull it off.
I'm
like a Hemingway sort of.
I'm shooting for Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman.
Oldman's a great choice.
And
I mean,
he has the emotion, plus he puts on so many different faces. He could easily play a dog, I believe.
well, I mean, he played with special effects. He played a little person in a movie. So
I think about this too, right? He played Ludwig von Beethoven in Immortal Beloved, which was a wonderful retrospective of Beethoven's music. If you have not seen it, you understand the feeling behind it, not just the music, but the historical context, which helped make the music you get with it too. But there was an 80s cop dog movie called Beethoven as well. I think that was all foreshadowing for this moment of time.
Oh, I didn't even get that correlation. Nice catch.
Nice catch. That's right.
So is he your vote? Because part of me thinks I'd like to see that role go to a younger actor. I just don't know who could pull it off in the modern lexicon.
I don't know. These kids today, I don't know.
All right.
Now, all the people who would think, a lot of people are confused and they think this next character, Spike Spiegel, is actually the protagonist of the show, or the main protagonist. Is being played by John Cho from Star Trek and
Harold M. Kumar. Also, I'm trying to think of what other big thing he was in. He's been in a couple other big things.
He's coming out with stuff now. I don't know him outside of Star Trek. I haven't seen the other movies, so I know
Harold and Kumar is
popular comedy.
Did three. That's he did a trilogy of movies as that character. So.
Oh yeah, and I know that was popular. I've not seen it.
You don't know what you're missing.
Yes, I do not know what I'm missing because I'm missing it.
Funny.
So sort of by definition there.
Well, true. Okay. To put the
yeah, and we'll go more into this, but Spike is, I believe he used Jeet Kune Do and just rampant gun violence, which leads me back that one of the other interesting world building choices, which I did not seem to write down here. Oh, I did it. I just skipped it. I was ignoring my own show notes. They use actually projectile weapons is the main form of weapon in the show. And which is an interesting choice. It adds to the noir feel. The sounds of the casings hitting into the ground or onto the deck of a ship as they're firing. Get it to work into space. You obviously have issues igniting something in space, but I don't care. It worked really well. It really helped add to the feel of the show. You might be able to do it too. I just don't know if it would be worth the cost to make bullets that work in space. But it's fiction. I don't care.
I wonder if it's something as simple as part of the ignition cap is magnesium.
Maybe, but it still has nothing. I don't know enough about magnesium igniting.
Burning magnesium, one of the byproducts of burning magnesium is oxygen. So it's a self.
So if you strike it,
it's a self.
You have oxygen maybe around it. Yeah.
The point about magnesium, one of the reasons it's so dangerous is it's a self-perpetuating fuel source for fire. So you can burn magnesium and it burns, and because it creates oxygen when it burns, it'll just keep burning, and it burns fast.
I'll go for. Let me add another science fiction trope into here, one that would be really dangerous: an antimatter firing pin thrust into the back of the cartridge, causing a little explosion, which would then force the bullet out. So a antimatter bullet. Of course, I don't want to be around that gun whenever those two things would touch. But hey, it's science fiction. It works.
I think that might be a little too high tech for the show, and I think for Bebop that might be a little off brand, as they say.
Mm-hmm. But it's a very interesting, smooth. One of the coolest characters to be pulled off on in animation or in live action has been Spike Spiegel. Just tremendously well done by the creative team who put together the original series. I feel bad for John. I hope he can pull it off. It's a character I don't know how you pull him off. Not in live.
Well, here's a couple of my issues with this. So I believe he's a very talented actor, and I think he's underutilized. I think he's got a lot of performance in him that we haven't gotten to see yet.
Mm-hmm.
But one, he's like twice the age of the character as the character is written in the show. So you're already, I'm like that means it's going to be an older Spike Spiegel, and without giving away any spoilers,
it doesn't really work well.
It doesn't work well. The character, like his age is really important. Like because
he's got a baby face, though. I think he can pull it off.
I mean, I guess, but he's a kind of like the kind of character he is. His age is important. The rash and impulsive things that he sometimes does is, in direct response to his age. So I don't know. That's my first big complaint about it, is that he's a lot older than the character is supposed to be.
Okay, so let's jump right into fears. Okay, yeah.
He doesn't look anything like him. Not that is a big deal. I don't think that casting for look is always important, because we've certainly had plenty of other characters in superhero movies and whatever in recent years where they cast somebody and I was like, oh really, that guy? And then that person turned out to be awesome. So I do believe that going against the visual can totally work.
Yeah, and part of it's going to be, I need to see him in costume to see if for me it's less the visual, it's more the way he moves. There's a very
that's actually,
I don't know if anyone in real life, or very few people, could probably pull off the fluid actions of the animated character. There's, like I said, there's this fluid coolness to him.
I forgot to mention, you're totally right. That is an extremely strong aspect of his character, is his physical prowess. Like there was one point, and this is in like the first episode, where a guy comes up behind him, chokes him out, and then as he's falling to the ground, almost unconscious, like he's almost been choked out to the point of passing out, he very casually, in a fashion that really would be difficult to pull off at all, slips his hand into his attacker's pocket and removes something that is part of the story. Yeah. But he was really being choked. It's not like, oh, hey, this doesn't hurt, I can quickly pick his pocket. Like he had his own hands up against his own throat, like, oh my God, I'm really being choked out here. And as he's falling to the ground, about to pass out, he quickly sticks his hand in the other guy's pocket and pickpockets it, and the guy doesn't notice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it is definitely one of his skills. And I'm sure CGI will be used to a point.
It would have to for some of it.
It would have to for some stuff that Spike pulls off. But it'll be interesting to see if John can pull it off. Like I said, I'm less concerned about how he looks, and I'm more concerned about the feel of the character and the movements of the character. Like I said, I don't know how well you can pull that off. Let's see. We have Jet Black, who is your veteran ex-cop, who is I guess the ship captain technically.
He owns the the Bebop is owned by Jet. It's his ship.
Yes, I don't know if you could say he's in charge of it, but he owns it.
He's in charge of it, because there's a few times where like he basically evicts a character.
Mm-hmm. And how well does that work out through the show? Not really.
Well, he allows that character to come back on, is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's not really in control. He just wants to be. But very sort of traditional masculine kind of character, big, strong, good with his hands, like mechanically speaking.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't want to brawl the guy ever.
No, he's an ex-cop.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a cybernetic left arm, I believe. His left arm. I
believe it's his left arm. Yes. And another great character. I mean, all of these characters that were about
actually, and doesn't he have a cybernetic leg as well? Am I remember that correctly?
I don't remember that. But he has a past he's trying to hide, as all of the characters of the show do. He's being played in the live action by Mustafa Shakar, I believe is how you say that.
And for those of you that are not familiar with that name, if you are familiar with Luke Cage, he is the bad guy from season 2, the Jamaican guy who was trying to get the Bushmaster is his name in the show.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Bushmaster who was trying to get back the Bushmaster rum and take over the club from one of the other big bads.
The other bad guy from the first.
Yeah, if you know the show, you know who I'm talking about. I don't know what else he's done, honestly.
Yeah, neither do I. I personally think the main character from Luke Cage could have very easily slipped into the part of Jet Black. It'll be interesting once again to see how Mustafa,
the character who plays Luke Cage. See, now my problem with this, and this is I have the same problem with this character casting as I do with Spike, and also in relation to them, is Jet in the show is older than Spike. He's clearly older than Spike, and what they bump into a lot of times is there is an experience, this more wise and cautious experience that Jet has because he used to be a cop, and he's older, and Spike is younger, extremely highly skilled, but younger, and he's also got his own pretty interesting background experience that makes him an expert in his field as well, but it's just coming from a different age perspective. So again, I have issues with, I just hope that doesn't make the relationship that they create in the Netflix show with the two of them different than the relationship they had in the anime, because their relationship in the anime is one of the greatest things in the show, in my opinion.
I agree. Yes. Then the next shipmate is the famous Faye Valentine, who I don't know. I've seen probably more images of her online than any of the other characters.
That's because you're searching for them late at night, though.
She is I guess you would say a saint.
You could
holy person. Is that what you'd say?
I would call her a femme. I would, if we're going to stick with the idea of noir, then she was definitely a femme fatale. I don't think she quite earns femme fatale, but
she wants to be a femme fatale. Is what
yeah. But she is according to like rules of noir. You could
I think that's a fair.
That. Yeah,
Jet is the wizened old cop.
Wizened old cop who's doesn't exactly play by the rules that the cops would, and certainly not now that he's a bounty hunter.
Not now that he's a bounty hunter, definitely. And that's something they actually go into in the series, is why he is the way he is now. Even though he's a character of high honor. He sells his own code of honor, but the traditional honor that he once followed, he no longer does. Spike would be the brash young detective, obviously. His detecting skills might need a little brushing up. Sort of like Faye, he's maybe a little short in some of the total skills needed for is working on. But Faye's being played by Daniela, Pinda, I guess is how you would say that. I don't know. She was in something called The Vampire Diaries or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with her, but visually she looks, fine for the show.
Visually she does seem to have the same sort of look that Faye does from the show. I'm like Michael. I've never seen the show she's in, so I'm assuming she's good. Because
I'm also assuming that they are not going to try to make these characters look exactly very much like, because some of the details of the way the characters look in the anime, of course it's anime,
are animated, so you can't.
They're a bit extreme. They're a bit stylized. It's not. Not how a person would.
It's not meant to be hyper realistic looking.
Right.
And the final character who's not yet been cast. And I think one of they're all my favorites, so I can't really, it's hard to pick one, except for Ein, obviously, is Edward Wong. I have no idea how to describe him, except he's good with computers. I guess I can say that.
What has he been in? Because I remember seeing a picture of the character, and
I don't know who's, when I was looking up, the character had not been picked yet. So I don't know who's playing him.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. You're saying? Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. You're referring to Ed. I forgot that Ed's name was Edward Wong, and believe it or not, that is the first time I think I've heard his name referred to as Edward.
It was
because
used, I think, very occasionally in the show, but not really. But later on, it came out.
So let me ask you how you watch that show. I watch that show. For me, Ed is a girl.
Yes, and I think that's the feeling you're supposed to get when you meet Ed.
So is Ed a girl, and
it's part of a reveal as they go into his character.
Well, but is Ed a boy?
I believe so.
I choose to believe that Ed is a girl.
You can, because like I said, Ed, outside of being really insanely good with computers and clinically insane, it's hard to put your finger on.
Clinically?
Yes.
You think clinically?
Yes.
I don't think clinically.
Or a better con person than Faye, which, I
think Ed is just joyfully the representation of childhood, of unsoiled childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, because you take a look at Jet, Faye, and Spike, and all of them have ruined backstories. They are all very damaged people, but Ed isn't.
And he is in a different way.
He is in a different way. Ed has had some things happen, but I choose to believe
opposite of cynical. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have the 5 main characters. Ein being the most important. Never forget that.
Yep.
And Spike, Jet, Faye, and Ed. And then Wong, I don't think I remember ever being referred to by his last name.
No, it's only ever Ed. I don't even remember Edward being said, but maybe.
Edward was said.
Yeah.
And then we talked a little bit about the universe, how the field goes.
Did you want to talk about?
We're about to get there. Yep.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to.
The Wants and Fears.
No, there's another character that's been cast.
Oh, I've not heard, and I don't care because it's not part of the ship. But go ahead. Oh, yeah, that person. Yeah,
Vicious has been cast. Now, I also assume, based on the fact that they made it a point to cast Vicious before mentioning that they'd cast Ed, that they're probably going to focus a bit on Vicious in the show. Now, in the anime, Vicious is a very important character, but you only see him in 2, maybe 3 episodes.
I would say in the first 20 episodes, maybe. I mean, he's more of an idea.
Well, but my point is, if you were to make an exact live action version of the Cowboy Bebop series, you wouldn't need that actor for many episodes because he doesn't show up a lot.
No, because it wasn't really until, and it was one of the late episodes which sort of started the final story arc. Which we're not going to get into,
right?
That he really became part of the show,
right? And he's certainly important for the overall bit, but
he's essential the first 20 episodes. But he's not, I don't really consider him a character for the first 20 episodes.
Yeah, my point is that I bet that they're going to do it differently for the Netflix show, and he'll probably be there more often, and he'll probably be
I'm sure he'll be the antagonist.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm not positive though.
Yeah, he's an important part of Spike's history, and that's as far as we'll go with it. And for him, I'm not picky about the casting for him, because what's important for Vicious is not how he looks. It's really important that the character can pull off. They just need to get a solid actor to play him is all.
Yeah,
that's all. Because he does have some serious gravitas. He is a presence and a half.
Yeah, and this character is, as soon as you see him, you should feel his name. That's all I care. I don't care how they pull it off, but you should feel his name seeing him. And yeah, you're completely true that was a character that should have been listed here. But talking about the characters and the feel of the show, and remember, Mars is the East. So Mars is the quintessential central part of this universe, the most developed. The further you get away, the more distant and harder it is. Your chance of getting in trouble with the law is very low when you get really far out. But when you get on Mars itself, it's hard This is part of the system to get away with things. And there's a heavy Chinese influence in here, like Bebop as well too. East Asian in general, which typically leads to a Chinese influence, at least historically on Earth, as it does in the show, which was another reason that, to me, it made some similar feels to watching Firefly. Now, some wants and fears. I'm going to start off this one with my first want, which is I want them to maybe start. It could be the acquisition of Ed, who came on later from Earth, which is a planet that had some kind of echo backlash, which is, they call it unlivable, but like Michael said, there are still characters living there, and Edward was one of them. He was actually drawing faces, I believe, in the moon with satellites, but I'm not positive.
I believe he was actually drawing on Earth. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So going back to the sort of maybe a bit crazy, but in a good, lovable way. The kind of crazy you want on your spaceship, if you ask me.
Yeah. Think River, but nowhere near as dangerous. Well, at least,
or maybe worse,
or at least physically.
Physically, definitely not. Yeah,
definitely not as physically imposing as River could be.
But my big thing is, I don't mind if they take a point of the show. And to me, it's the acquisition of Edward is maybe a good one, but then I want them to deviate away and not try and remake episodes from the animated series.
Yeah, that's probably wise.
So do you have any big ones that you want for the show? Besides you want it to be good.
I want the Bebop to be the Bebop. If they're not going to give me, if the characters are not going to look or quite be what they are in the anime series, I want at least their spaceship, and especially their smaller spaceships, to be identical or damn near identical to the anime designs. That art direction
would be awesome.
Yeah, that art direction for me is important. I want to see that.
My second one is very closely tied to Michael's here, which is I want it to have a soundtrack, and it could change a couple times because the movie's longer than a TV episode.
Oh, is it a movie?
Huh?
Are they doing it as a movie? I thought they were doing it as a show.
Isn't it? I want the same feel where they're using music in the same powerful way to cause the action and to have it flow with the actual scene, not as in a response, but as leading, the art direction of the episodes. But you're right; it's a 10-part series. But that's my second one. Do you have a second one?
Well, without spoiling it. I don't think this is a big spoiler. It's a really, really small spoiler. I don't want there to be a romance.
No.
In the TV show, in the anime, there is certainly some implied, because it's subtle, interest between two characters that I'm not going to say who, because if they do it, I'd like you to pick it up on it subtly. If they don't do it, then fine.
Go back to our characters; it'll be obvious.
Yeah,
and someone else.
Yes, I wasn't going to say.
I'm sorry.
It's not Ein, because Ein is a Welsh corgi. Anyway. No, so there's like some subtle, but one of the things that I love about this show so much is the character development. The characters in the show is what is going to make you love the show, and the fact that the show has style in spades. There is so much style to this show, not just the way it looks. The music is a very big thing.
And it's so cohesive. That was the basis.
Yeah. Like the music is a character in and of itself.
Any part of it missing of that style ruins it.
Yeah, it really it makes it a different show. So my apprehension about them making the show together, I said this to Jeff the other day, I might even have posted something about it, is not so much that oh, I need them to do it perfect. It's just that to get this show right, it's a tightrope walk. Them getting it right the first time in an anime had to have been a tightrope walk then too, because there are so many variables, so many things that need to occur to make it what it is, that it's going to be hard to get all those things together in a different medium and make it all work the way it works. Plus, you figure, they're working when you're doing animation. All you need is the voice actor to have the right inflection, and if you can get two voice actors that have a little bit of chemistry, then you're going to feel that against each other, and then you can draw the rest, and you can imply so much more with the drawing. We're going to need to get all that in performance, which is harder to do, to get all that,
because they have to get the face, the movements that they're doing, and all that has to work together in that character, which has to work together with all of the other elements of the show. I don't know if it's going to be easy, but I do think, and this is my fear, is they're not going to hire the creative genius behind Bebop, whose name I don't know. He should be consulting on the series.
Boy, I hope so.
The director, who I don't believe is the same person, she needs to be consulting, if not doing the music for this as well, just to make sure that you have some, it's when you lose essential team members, it's like when the next Dragon Age video game comes out, it's not going to feel like Dragon Age Origins, and none of them have, because team members start to move on, and I don't think any of the creative team behind Dragon Age is still at BioWare. So Dragon Age 4, by its nature, cannot have the artistic feel of the original. It's not to say it won't be good. I know they just rebooted it, so who knows? But really, to me, I only really like the first one anyway. But I don't want to go too far there. That's a different episode. But the thing is, when you start losing the creative minds, it was like, would you go back? I forget who did the TV show. It was Brad. I can't remember his last name. It was the creative guy behind Stargate, the TV show, which I love SG-1. And you could tell watching the series when he left. And I still enjoyed it. I still watched it, but it lost the thing the direction that he gave it artistically. Not necessarily, the plots could still all keep going, but when you start losing the artistic people behind something of genius, it's hard to find new genius to come in to replace them. And like Michael says, the music, the feel, the spaceships, the characters, the dialogue all have to work well together for this to work.
I never read Altered Carbon, and a friend of mine did, and said that there was a lot of things that they changed for the TV show, but a lot of things that he understood how and why they changed them, and was still okay with the TV show. I loved that show. I thought it was amazing, and also, not even having not read the book, I thought it was an incredibly ambitious project to take on, because you had to have multiple actors playing multiple characters at different times, which means every actor needs to agree upon how this character behaves, because they all have to do it, and that's a very tricky thing to do. It's hard. It can be hard for an actor to nail one character, let alone multiple characters that they have to summon in the same workload. So
you're maybe thinking of something else that I can't remember the name of, which is annoying me.
Heart and Souls?
No, it was a female actress who played about 55 different parts.
Orphan Black?
Orphan Black, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the opposite problem of Orphan Black.
No, it's similar problem, because now it's not multiple actors; it's one actor.
It's one actor playing multiple roles.
Multiple roles, yeah.
And there were a couple actors who did that within the show, but there's pretty much the lead character, who should have won several awards for her acting performances during it.
Did she not?
I don't know, because I don't track that kind of stuff. So, but she should have. because it was another really good show. But that's once again a different episode too. So, but I do think my biggest fear is there's so many things that have to come together to make this work. It's going to be tough. I'm going to go into it optimistically, thinking they're going to get it. And like I said, some of the things, John Cho is too old. Mustafa's probably a bit too young for their roles, but I'm hoping that they get that in sync for the show, and they don't try and make it all the same age. Because probably my biggest fear is they make it into a millennial version of Cowboy Bebop, which is, they're all, it's like real world Cowboy Bebop. I don't want that. It just doesn't work if you make them all the same age, and Edward has to be younger.
Ed has to be young. Yeah, I mean, in the show, Ed's like 12,
13, maybe.
Yeah. So Ed's got to be young.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the only one that I insist be, correct to the show. That one's got to be a very young
age wise, and I do think that it does need to be a bit amorphic, but part of that is the age. Because at that age, a lot of times, before puberty hits, a lot of the things that really strengthen masculinity versus femininity come out with the hormone explosions that happen, around that time. So
yeah, I mean, I would prefer that the character be a little androgynous. I bet
needs to be.
It doesn't need to be. They could take that right out. They could not play. It wasn't so significant in the show that it needs to be in the show again.
I guess it doesn't. It's not essential, but
I think in today's era, I think it would be timely because of all the transgender issues that are bouncing around these days, and that with transgender rights being fought for and all of that. That I think that it would serve them to be what's the word? Not modern, but just timely. I think it
would be timely, and I think the reason that age is so important too is there's that point of time right before puberty where I think most people they're trying to struggle down the path that they think they're supposed to be on, and to me that's the only time that non-binary makes sense to me in my limited experience in the world, because I don't understand like identifying as both now, but at that time maybe it's more possible because you don't have the hormones juicing you up. I think that kind of identity with that kind of age makes a lot of sense. It would work really well and be timely. So it'll be interesting. I hope they do it. Okay, so that is all we have. We don't typically do a world building task on this type of episode, so we're not going to.
The real world task, though, is if you have not watched Cowboy Bebop, go watch Cowboy Bebop. You will thank us. I'd be hard pressed to believe anybody that listens to the show would not enjoy that show.
Yes, and if you don't, make sure to let us know.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.